Leadership doesn't show up in boardrooms or strategy sessions. It shows up in how we respond, especially when things don't go as planned. So welcome to Voices of Impact, the space where we explore leadership beyond tactics, quick fixes, and into presence and real transformation. So today's conversation is one I've been really looking forward to. So I'm joined by 𝗪𝗂, an internationally certified canine behavior consultant, professional dog trainer and service dog coach with over 15 years of experience supporting dogs and the people who love them. Her work is trauma-informed and deeply ethical, prioritizing emotional safety and resilience for both dogs and humans. So 𝗪𝗂 and I share a belief that shapes everything we do. That behavior is a message, right? Change happens when we learn to listen and not to control. So this conversation invites us to rethink not only how we support dogs, but how we lead, relate, and respond, especially in moments of fear, uncertainty, and discomfort. Welcome to Voices of Impact, 𝗪𝗂. Love to have you here.
Thank you so much, Bean. I really appreciate you having me here today.
So 𝗪𝗂, what first drew you to working with dogs and families? And how did that evolve into founding 𝗵𝗵 Canine Service Team?
Well, my my journey was not so linear. Yeah, I actually started off as an actor, and I took on a dog
Nice.
walking job. Yeah, I took on a
Wow.
dog walking job because I was like, well, maybe I could still audition and do my thing at the same time. And I honestly, I just fell in love with the dogs. I loved watching them interact. I loved watching them play. And then next thing you know, I was being asked to be a manager. So I said, sure, I'll be a manager, but can you send me to school to become a dog trainer? Because I didn't know. I had no idea that I wanted to do that until I started to watch all these dogs do their thing. And I actually
Mhm.
have like real joy from seeing them play and have fun. So
Amazing.
then I went off to school to become a dog trainer. And then I finished with honors, and that was wonderful. I came out of it, and I was like, it's not enough. I don't know enough. And to be honest, I came out so confused because they taught me all the theory behind it, but there was none of the ethics to it. And
Mhm.
at that time, because we're talking over 15 years ago, that's when there was, a big movement on TV about different handling tactics and whatnot. And I had trainers on one side that were using aversives and then other ones that were saying, no, don't use aversives. And I was like, well, where do I fit in here? So then I sought out mentorship underneath other professionals, but people who had similar values to me. And I was very lucky to be able to mentor under a retired animal behaviorist who just volunteered his time. And I was like, this is amazing. From there, I mentored under somebody else for years, and that was quite lovely. But at one point, I realized even our beliefs were veering off from each other's as I was growing into being my own self and a behavior consultant. And I started to educate myself by following other people that were similar to me. And then I just kind of reached a point where I was like, I have to do this my way,
Mhm.
the way that resonates with me,
Right.
without being told, I think you should do this. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
So then I went off and I started 𝗵𝗵 Canine Services with my best friend, who's also a phenomenal dog trainer and one of the most talented service dog coaches I know in the country. So it's been a really interesting journey for the two of us as we've started this.
Amazing. Kudos to you. Kudos to you again. And yeah, let's get into the pillars, right? The why. And you describe your work as compassionate and science-based. So how do those two pillars show up in your day-to-day consulting and mentoring?
It's interesting because a lot of times when people think of working with animals, they'll say, well, I work with animals because I really love animals, but I don't love people so much. And the people that I mentor, I say all the time, you have to really love people to do this work. Because not only do you need to have compassion for the animal, but you need to have compassion for the human experience as well as they're
Mhm.
going through whatever challenges that they're facing with their dog. And even if they're not challenges yet, they're just, maybe they got a new puppy and it's just exciting. And, it's like having a new baby. Now suddenly your life is sort of upside down and you're trying
Right.
to, evolve and figure out how to have this animal in your life and make it a priority. You have to have compassion for what their experience is as you work through any of this stuff with them. So that's sort of the forefront of everything I do. is regardless of what I think, regardless of what I feel and what my beliefs are, I look at it and I go, okay, what are they experiencing right now? Because if I don't take that into consideration, it doesn't matter what protocols, resources, what advice I give them, they're not going to do it if I don't actually consider how they're feeling and what this is like for them. The science-based aspect of it, it just comes from, hey guys, I'm not making this stuff up. This
Right.
isn't just, something I pulled out of a hat where I'm like, well, I think the best idea would be that it's important to take a look at all of the other professionals out there who are pouring their life into helping animals and using the most up-to-date information possible, because things are constantly changing. What we did 10, 15 years ago, even, people like 𝗵𝗫 Stewart, she's brilliant. Even she's changed her protocols over the course of 15 years. You don't see BAT 1.0 anymore, which is behavior adjustment treatment. It's like BAT 3.0. It's forever evolving because people are putting it into practice and going, okay, we need to change this. This isn't working. Let's consider this. And I think that's the important piece of it, is like science changes. It's not set in stone. But you have to come from a place where you actually care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love how you talked about like compassion and how that relates, especially having a people focus, right? Yes, they're dogs, but you also have to focus on what they need and what the people need, looking at the bigger picture, right? So
Right.
absolutely amazing. And going into a little bit deeper of your vision. So I know you want to focus on that bigger picture. So what does that mean for the future of your practice and the industry in Canada? Because I know we did have a conversation offline. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like dog training and behavior consulting, all that's always feels very like competitive amongst each other, or even like within the industry of other professionals, where
Right.
it's like, well, I'm the doggy daycare, or I'm the vet, or I'm the. To me, it needs to be a community. We
Yes.
all specialize in different things, right? I am
Right.
absolutely not a veterinarian, but I do really well when I collaborate and build really good relationships with veterinarians, because I respect the fact that they went to school for so many years and became experts in their field. I need that information in order to do my job effectively as well. Same with the doggy daycare. Now I am lucky. I used to manage a doggy daycare, and I've been a dog walker, and I've managed and trained dog walkers, so I can appreciate that perspective very well and the real challenges that they face every day. But I haven't done it in a long time. So the
Yes.
issues they're having today, I have to listen to those. And being able to collaborate with people and professionals in that area is extremely important. So if we can just get past the idea of like, we're competing and my way is the right way, and
Right.
all of that silly stuff, and just go, let's work together. Let's
Yeah.
figure out a way where we can create a community where people feel safe and they can come and go, you're now my care team. You're part of my care team. And you guys can talk to each other and collaborate on my behalf, knowing that my dog is now going to get the best possible care from everybody involved in their life.
Absolutely. Yes, it's all about community, and that's what this is all about, Voices of Impact as well. We're all here. I think we all have different niches, and it comes sometimes people think it's like a competition, or what if they take my idea? And even I had coaches who are career coaches, and I'm a career coach. We all have like the same kind of domain, but it's like a different niche. And when you look at it from a place of partnership, community collaboration, it's very different. It's a collective because we're all here for a mission. Right. So absolutely. And that's very important. So, and yeah, awesome. And going into, I know we talked a bigger picture, but looking at the root cause, because I know that is your approach. So what are some most common underlying factors you see driving problem behaviors, and how do you assess them during intake and planning?
That's a great question. My assessment is a 3-part process. So I have them fill out a questionnaire for me first. That's their perspective, right? It's their day-to-day experience that they're having. Then I will do an observational assessment. And then if I can, and I say if I can, because some dogs don't want me to touch them, I'll do a hands-on assessment. A lot of times what I'm seeing is a well, it's not the final issue, but a contributing issue is a miscommunication that's occurring. People not understanding appropriately canine language. I say to
Yeah.
people all the time, over the course of 10 to 30,000 years as dogs have been domesticated, they've done a phenomenal job of learning our language. To the point
Right.
that they can read our facial expressions. They know when we're happy, when we're sad. They can tell by the smell of our sweat. Are we angry? Are we excited? Are we sad? But we haven't really returned that favor and truly being able to read our dogs. It happens all the time where clients will be like, "Oh, my dog's wagging his tail. He's really excited." I'm like, "That is not a wag, my friend."
Right.
It's
Right.
a flag. And it's like, "Oh, well, what's a flag?" I'm like, those are two completely different things and they mean different things, right? So being able to recognize like the small little signals that a dog gives and then the big ones as well, because if you can start to understand what they're saying, you're going to react differently. And then you're not necessarily looking at the behavior from your own personal perspective.
Yeah.
And you're empathizing with what the dog's experience might actually be. So
Right.
I would say communication is one of the biggest things that ends up being or lack of communication that ends up being an underlying driving force. And then the medical piece. A lot of the behaviors I see, there's an underlying medical condition that's going on. Again, not the direct causation, but potentially correlated to the behavior, a lack of sleep, not meeting dietary needs, possible arthritis, etc. The list goes on of things that could be occurring at that time.
Amazing. Yes, and absolutely. I mean, as a coach or mentor, and when you have your own practice, it's really about understanding the other person, right? What did they need? What do they want? And then, of course, empathy plays a huge role. So absolutely, right? That's what's really going to get the people or results, right? It's super important leadership skill. And then going into the behavioral philosophy, you do emphasize compassion and trust. So how do these values shape your recommendations and communication with guardians? I know we talked about that a little bit, like going into a little bit more detail.
Yeah, no, that's actually quite huge when it comes to behavior consulting. Again, you think that I'm going in and I'm working with the dog and I'm fixing the dog. And I know there's that, it's an ongoing joke where people go, "Oh, you're really training the people. You're not training the dog," right? And really what I'm doing, it's not so much training the people, is I'm getting to know the people. I
Yes.
have to get to know you to
Right.
truly understand the dynamic of everything that's going on. There's been many times where I come in to work on a particular behavior that I've been called, and we're trying to address that, but just through building a relationship with the client and with the family, I start to find other things that are going on that are contributing, and they have to trust
Right.
you to share that, right? Especially if they're afraid that you're going to judge them, or
Right.
because they're telling you something, maybe they previously implemented something that they're not proud of, or maybe there's something very deeply personal that's happening in the family that they're
Right.
struggling with that's also contributing to what's happening. So the trust is so, so important. Not only do I need to gain the trust of the dog to allow me to actually help them, I have to gain that trust of the family to truly let me in so that I can help them as well, and let them recognize that when I'm helping them, it's never coming from a place of judgment.
Yes.
My
Yes.
expectation is never perfection. I don't expect you to be the perfect dog owner, because I can't even be the perfect dog owner. Nobody can. I'm not even a
Right.
perfect parent, despite trying every moment of every day.
Right.
We're always doing something wrong, but that's where we learn, is when we do things wrong. And then we go, okay, that didn't work. I need to just take a step back and look at that and figure out, how do I take that experience and grow from it?
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
I just love how you really use those like feminine leadership of empathy, because I know some people kind of hide behind those things, but being empathetic and understanding that compassion, trust. Trust is the main builder to build that relationship, having sustainable practice, right? So we think of it as like, oh, you're a dog trainer, but it's really not. And it's nice that you're really coaching the people, because it's the guardian, right? The dogs are really focused on their guardian. It's about being loyal. So knowing and understand how to train those dogs that way, and really building that relationship is key. So absolutely, thank you for sharing that. And when working with fearful or reactive dogs, what practical steps help guardians stay compassionate without enabling like unsafe behavior?
Yeah, so safety and management are the key. That's sort of the first step when I'm dealing with a dog like that, because I need the client to understand I can't fix this overnight.
Right.
So the idea that this can be fixed by, slapping a certain tool in there, a certain collar, a certain whatever, that's not going to fix the problem. It's
Exactly.
going to stifle it potentially. My management is around the idea of decreasing the triggers that are causing the behavior, and decreasing
Right.
overall stress that might be underneath all of that, or frustration that might be causing the behavior as well, or correlated to the behavior. Those things, if implemented correctly, will not cause any adverse effects to the dog. If anything, should cause the dog to feel safer, and it
Right.
should make the family safer as well. If done incorrectly, then obviously it's not going to do that. And that's why I don't rely on the use of tools or anything like that. That becomes extremely important for people to understand before we can dive into the actual behavior. So, for example, let's say we have a dog who's resource guarding. Resource guarding is such a beast of a behavior to deal with, and it's an abnormal behavior for dogs to resource guard to humans. We don't actually share the same resources as them. Hopefully, you're not eating your dog's kibble. So, for them to demonstrate a behavior like that, I know it's coming from an extreme place of stress. So as much as you want me to work on drop its and trades and all this wonderful stuff, I can't begin there. I need to begin by calming the household down, because the dog's having an experience, but the humans are also having an experience as well.
Yeah.
And everybody just needs to kind of take a breath and calm down and
Right.
feel safe for a moment, so that we can
Exactly.
actually dive deep into that behavior and go, okay, now where is this coming from? How do we fix it?
Right. Right. I love how you like integrated that, like the nervous system, like, hey, feel like calm down, feel safe, which is very important. And then going into root cause. Cause I think a lot of leaders just be like, hey, here's a tool, and I see a lot of people still doing that. But rather than just giving a tool, like you said, what's going on with the dog, what's going on with the guardian, why is this happening? Right. It's always the why behind it that gets the result. Amazing.
Yeah.
Going into your business and your visibility. So, how do you balance hands-on consulting with the collaboration? And how do you know when to step into that bigger leadership role?
Well, the sort of the collaboration is sort of implemented into everything that I do, right?
Yeah.
Most dogs that I'm dealing with, well, every dog I deal with has a veterinarian. So it's one of the first questions I ask is, who's your vet? And then I'll ask for written permission to be able to speak to that vet in the event that I feel like it would be appropriate, or necessary for that particular dog. So right there, collaboration happens right off the hop. If I've been referred a client from a dog trainer, so oftentimes dog trainers are, they start with a client, best intentions, and then they realize, oh my goodness, this is bigger than what I can actually handle. And then, of course, them being ethical, they go, I need to pass this to somebody who can actually handle this case. So if I get those cases, then I invite that trainer to sit in and audit what I'm doing with that client for free, because they sent the reference to me. And I feel like that's a way to give back to the community, because they sent the client to me, which I applaud them, because that's extremely ethical, and the best thing that they could have done for that dog. And secondly, it gives them an opportunity to learn, and it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah.
And I can help them and guide them through the case, so that later on, when they get another case like that, maybe they'll feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confident about taking it on. And if not, I'm still there. I'm still there to help them through it. So I feel like the collaboration piece is just, it should always be a part of it. Same
Yeah.
thing if it's a dog walker. I invite the dog walker to come to the appointment. Be there. You're going to be walking the dog too. You're the one that's dealing with the reactivity on walk every single day. Come see what I'm doing. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I love how you treat them as like, it's like a friend, right? Like, yeah, get to know each other, what's going on. You get more authentic. So absolutely. And this is
The
great
ego
collaboration.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say the ego can be it can trip you up, right?
Right.
Regardless of what your certifications are, your experience, and so on and so forth. If you hide
Exactly.
behind that ego and you're like, no, we can't collaborate because I'm this,
Right.
that's not going to
Yeah.
help anybody. It's not going to help you.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I've seen this. I mean, honestly, just recently, this has happened. Like this ego, like it gets in the way. But authentic leadership, a true leader, it really puts the ego at the side, right? Checks not the door and be like, hey, but how can we really help each other out in some way and add value, right? And that's where the sustained business relationships, everything comes from that. It's really about alignment.
Yeah.
But of course, like choosing the right people to do that is also another thing, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. And going into, so any like practical advice. So I'm looking at how can someone distinguish between short-term management and true long-term well-being strategies?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. So management is important. We need it in order, especially to deal with these very complex cases. However, keep in mind, management does have an expiration date because the very thing that you are managing, so I'll give you a real example here. So say that the dog is very reactive when people pass the house. So we start covering the windows so that there's less reactivity on a daily basis. Wonderful. That's great because it calms the dog down enough so that we can start working on other things over here. And they're in the right mental space to be able to learn. Because when cortisol goes up, when stress goes up, cognitive function decreases and we can't learn as well. Same thing for dogs. But if I forever cover those windows, then the very trigger on the other side of that window will only become that much more novel over time, which means remove the window covering and the reactivity probably goes up from where it initially was.
Right.
So that's an indicator that, okay, we've overmanaged the situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I implement something and that tool makes the behavior go away in that moment, but it does not address the emotional experience that the dog is having, and if you were to remove that tool, that behavior would present itself all over again, then I haven't actually fixed the problem.
Exactly.
What I did is I put a big old Band-Aid over a bullet hole, and I created this illusion that the problem has in fact been fixed, but the problem is still there. And if I use something that makes the dog uncomfortable, for example, which is, I know this is a big thing that we talk about in the behavioral world, but I'm quite passionate about it. I won't use aversives on dog. I won't cause dogs pain. I won't cause them harm, right? Because if I need to do that in order to get a behavior, then I'm tricking myself into thinking that I've gotten a behavior because I haven't addressed how the dog feels. And if anything, I might have caused the dog to feel even more emotionally unsafe, which in the long run is going to cause more problems down the road. So I have a responsibility to make sure that I don't take a dog and make it worse.
Yes, exactly. Right. I love how you're just focused on getting really super clear, right? Before you just put out the tools, as mentioned, like what is the dog feeling? What is the dog thinking, right? Like what has the guardian done before? What's been tried? What's like trial and error thing? And I know some people need to kind of slow down and think about those things as leaders. So absolutely, right? And like you said, there's no point just giving out a tool and then it just keeps repeating. We want to make sure that we don't repeat the same mistake over and over again. So absolutely. And so going into current challenges and trends. So how has public awareness increased around welfare changed the cases you see regarding these things?
Well, I can honestly say that I feel people are much more open to the long game.
Right.
Kind of a way to look at it, right? When I first started, I feel like I had a lot more conversations as to, well, this is why we don't use these tools. This is why I can't fix your problems overnight. This is why. I think that social media can be helpful. It can work for us and it can work against us. Obviously, there are some things on social media that create this illusion that these problems can be fixed very quickly. But there's also a lot more people speaking out. I'm really quite happy to see a lot more trainers, a lot more behavior specialists out there actually advocating for dogs and advocating for the well-being. And what that tells me is that the belief system of what we as a society see dogs as is starting to shift. So what I mean is, for me as a behavior consultant, I'm very clear on what my belief as to what a dog is.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that dogs are sentient creatures. I believe that they have their own emotional scope. I believe that they have feelings and wants and needs and desires. And I believe that they are true members of our families.
Right.
I don't believe they're tools. I don't believe they are property. Because if I believed that, then I would treat them as such.
Right.
So as long as I always come from a place of like, this is what my beliefs are, then it's really easy for me to stay in that ethical lane.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see a lot more people shifting into that belief system and then sharing that information and going, hey, everyone, have you thought about the nervous system? I can't believe how much stuff on the nervous system is out there right now. And I love that because it's so valid and it's so, so important. If the dog is anxious or stressed or nervous or scared or overwhelmed or overtired or irritable, like pain. All of these things are going to affect behavior, and you have to address that.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, nervous system's really key in anything. And I just love how you really are passionate about dogs. It really shows. And like you said, you change like the narrative, because dogs, we just think like, oh, it's a dog and we don't really pay attention to it. But when it's like, hey, this is my baby, this is my family, and I want my dog to be happy. I want that dog, the guardian's dog, to be happy. And what are they feeling? It's like you said, it's just easier because you've treated it as like your own, right? So yeah, that's so great. I'm so glad to see more people honoring this right now. I do agree. Like, just spread more awareness about it, because it is important. So even though I don't have a dog, I still feel it. Like I just saw a dog out there and it was just like in the cold, and I was like, oh my God, isn't it cold, right, for the dog? So it's just like, I treat it that way too. So like you said, it really comes from belief. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Such great conversations that we're having. Going into what's next for Thrive Canine Service Team, any new programs, collaborations, or initiatives?
Oh, we're always doing something.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I'm going to be, I am a coach with the Pet Biz people. That's really exciting for me. It's a little bit different than what I do on a day-to-day basis with Thrive. So the Pet Biz people, they are a group of people that have worked specifically with pet professionals, and essentially they coach people who have their own businesses, whether they're a startup company, they've been around for a time, they're going through growth. And basically what we do is we bring in, so I am obviously the behavior specialist, but then you've got accountants, you've got virtual assistants, you've got CEOs on demand, you've got web designers, but people that have all worked in the pet industry before. So they're viewing it from the lens of somebody from the pet industry. So when I got asked to be part of this, I was like, this is exciting, because I already mentor dog trainers and they always ask me about starting a business and the challenges and all of that. And now I have something where I can go, I can help you, but I can help you by sending you to the right resources, the right people that can actually help you build your business. So that's a big one that I'm really excited about. I've been collaborating with many of the vets in the area. Super excited. There's New Leaf Veterinarian. They do mobile services. They have the vet online, which is really cool, who's a big advocate of behavior and viewing medicine through that lens as well, which is really exciting for me to work with them in that respect. I've got the Republic of Dog, which is a company in Toronto, and I'm really excited to work with them because I'm going to be overseeing a bunch of trainers in the Toronto area and building some programs and mentorship and whatnot that way. So there's a lot of really cool things on the horizon for Thrive, and I'm very, very excited by all of it and want more projects. Bring them my way.
Yes, yes. Well, Thrive Canine is thriving, so it's expanding. Yeah, and so happy for you. You should be proud of yourself. I'm proud. And the fact that you're collaborating with some people, I mean, it shows that you're a values-led coach, right? And you embody that, because this is what this is all about. It's embody leadership. So best of luck. You got me in your corner as well to keep supporting. So amazing. So just a few rapid fire round questions.
Sure.
So I think we already kind of covered a bit this, but love to hear more. So morning or evening, when do you do your best systems thinking?
You know what? I have always been a night hawk. And maybe that's because I used to, back in the day, I was a bartender. So I was up at nighttime. I don't know, that I've always done very well at night. That's when my ideas come to me and I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to be sleeping. Well, now I got to write this down. That being said, I'm still at my computer at 9 a.m. every day, but probably the evening is my best time.
Yeah. I can relate too, because I do well in the evening, but I'm getting in the mornings.
I'm even that person that works out at nighttime, like ask me to do a 5 a.m. workout. I am not your girl.
No.
But tell me to go to, work out at 7 p.m. Yes, let's do it.
Me too. Me too. I always do my work at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think previously we were having a conversation about the 5 a.m. club or something, and most successful people wake up at 5, which I do agree. But I think just kind of do what works for you, where everyone's different. So great. And then I know we talked about this, but a belief about dog training that you've had to unlearn.
Used to believe, when I first became a dog trainer, I used to believe that there was a protocol for everything and that if you asked a dog to do something, it had to do it.
Mhm.
I used to teach my clients that, and that's not true. That's not
Yeah.
true because when I believed that, I forgot to even take into consideration the autonomy and the agency of the dog.
Right.
And I have done like a full 180 since that. Now I had one client not too long ago. I went in and I wanted to test. She's a very nervous dog, and I wanted to test a few things with her. And I asked for some treats, and the client goes, "Wait, you got to ask her to sit." And I just kind of looked at her and I go, "Why?" And she goes, "Because she's got to work. She's got to work for the food." I'm like, "But she's nervous about me. Why would I ask her to do something in order to earn this treat? Shouldn't I just
Mhm.
reward her curiosity of coming towards me by giving her this food?" And I think her mind blew up for a second because
Mhm.
she was so conditioned that the dog should have to do something to get that treat.
Right.
And I was like, nobody asks me to do anything to get food. I just get it. In fact, I just go to my fridge when I want a snack,
Right.
and I don't have to answer to anybody. I said,
Right.
imagine living in a world where you're told when to sleep, when to eat, when to go to
Yeah.
the bathroom, when to exercise, when to play. Like, oh my goodness, it's like jail, but you know,
Yes.
in a loving way. I'm like, let's just give her the autonomy. Let's just give these dogs some choice and some freedom to
Mhm.
navigate their world and affect how the outcome's going to be in their world. We all
Mhm.
need that, right? So
Yes.
that's a big one for me that shifted, and it just like from once I changed that, I went just my trajectory just went in a
Yeah.
completely different direction.
Like, I love how you're integrating the human experiences as humans and then teaching that to, like, or mentoring that to the guardian.
Mhm.
And then when you apply those things, you'll realize the dog treats you so well at the guardian and is super loyal, So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's all about, like, really unlearning. Because I know whether any niche, right? We're kind of like, there's societal conditioning that we're supposed to do this, supposed to do that. But I love how you talked about autonomy in every way. That's very true,
Mhm.
right? So you're thinking about how a dog would feel, like, free, just like we think about humans. We want, like, time freedom and personal freedom. Like, how would a dog feel? So
Yeah.
definitely, this is great. So very important messages and principles, right? You're kind of following those, like, themes and topics. So
Well, as soon as
amazing.
somebody says, well, they have to do this, I just simply go, why? And if
Yeah.
the answer is, well,
Yeah.
that's just the way it's always been, then I go, well, that's not a good enough
Right.
answer. That's a fallacy.
Exactly.
Give me a real reason. Give me a real reason why a dog should have to sit in order to get a treat.
Right.
Because they're used to working. I'm like, yeah, but you've got yourself a breed that doesn't do that particular type of work, right? Like
Mhm.
it makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
Conditioning things, we got to get past that.
Exactly. It's a mindset shift. It's a mind like set. Like, we need permission. I tell this to, like, a lot of women. We need permission to put ourselves out there. I was like, why do you need permission? Like, go put it out there. Own yourself, own your voice. And
Yeah.
that's what this platform is about. I thank you for bringing all of these into your practice, and you're sharing your story for others out there to listen. Absolutely. What legacy do you hope your work leaves for dogs, families, and the wider animal welfare community?
I hope that people just really for me it's the belief piece. I
Yeah.
want people to start
Yeah.
recognizing the responsibility that we actually have towards these animals that we bring into our
Right.
home. We ask a lot of them, right? We ask a lot,
Yeah.
guard my home, but let my friends in,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
We ask tons of these dogs, and I just want people to start taking into consideration what the dog itself actually wants, and then setting up real goals and expectations that are attainable for that dog, not just based on what you want.
Right.
And then so that's for like the guardian. For the dog trainers and the behavior consultants out there, and to them I say recognize your responsibility and how you're going to affect that dog's life, because I've had clients who have come to me before. For example, a service dog client a few years back came to me. The dog was demonstrating some behaviors, and this is a very delicate process because these dogs aren't cheap. It costs anywhere between $80,000 to $150,000 to train a service dog, and it takes us 3 years to train them. And this dog came to me, and it came from a lovely breeder. Had really good bones about this dog. Sorry, it had really good bones about this dog, and unfortunately, someone who wasn't a service dog specialist had trained the dog and
Mhm.
had implemented some techniques that were not advisable for a service dog. And despite our attempts to try to backtrack and fix it, we ended up washing out the dog, which means the dog will not be a service dog.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
client had to go out and seek out a new service dog. So now they're not going to rehome that dog because they love the dog. But now
Yeah.
they have an extra dog that they have to care for who's not going to do the job it was supposed to do. And that's a huge responsibility. I've had other dogs before that, unfortunately, some of the things that were done to them in training put them so far, in a trauma response that we couldn't safely get them back to where we needed them to be to safely reside in that particular home. And there's no magical farm to send this dog to. So either you manage the dog for life, or unfortunately they have to be euthanized because they're too dangerous for society. So again, there's a responsibility if you don't know what you're doing, or you think, well, I can do a quick fix. I can put this tool on this dog and fix the problem. It might be making the problem worse. And then therefore sort of setting this dog up in the future that, we can't fix it.
Right.
So these are things I just say we have a responsibility as a society to dogs. So respect that responsibility and respect the dog and what the dog wants as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this message, right? So we think of dogs as just like it's a dog. It's not, right? And when you're a guardian or you're a trainer, like it's your, like I said, it's your own baby, it's your family. So treat it that way.
Yeah.
Just like we have our own daughter or son, it's our responsibility as a mother, just similar to that, right? And like you said, it's a mission. Everyone is a mission.
Yeah.
So my mission is to come here and serve my thing. And it's my responsibility, right? To show up and do my thing every day. Just like that legacy that you have, a message to share. Absolutely. Lisa's conversation is such a powerful reminder that leadership, whether it's dogs, families, or professionals, ends with listening, right? Like you said, autonomy, not control. So your work models what happens when we slow down, to understand the system beneath the behavior. And when you're willing to stay present and understand them through discomfort, then override it. So what stood out was that compassion as strength, that philosophy is science as grounding, trust as a foundation for real change. So for everyone listening, I invite you to reflect on this. Where in your life are you trying to manage behavior instead of listening to the message underneath it? So really understand the why behind what you're doing. So I also want to share something that's been quietly taking shape behind the scenes. So I'm bringing life to Sovereign Rise, a global collective for solo-led leaders, creators, and change makers to elevate voices, circulate wisdom, and co-create impact from identity and integrity. So stay tuned to hear more about that initiative in April. So Lisa, thank you for your insight, presence, and the way you remind us that leadership, begins with listening and trust, right? It's been a real joy having you on Voices of Impact. So, and to our listeners, this season of Voices of Impact is about expanding how we define leadership. So in systems and communities ready for something more conscious and compassionate, and we both value collaboration. So if this conversation resonated, connect with Lisa on LinkedIn and with me, and stay tuned for what's coming next. So until next time, remember that leadership doesn't scale alone through control or authority. It scales through collaboration, community presence, and the courage to lead with compassion and trust every single day.